Yellow. No, because we have the same three initials, just like mixed around. It's CCE, CME, and CMC. One day we're all three of us were like on screw, right? I was so confused. Maybe have the same three initials in two combinations.
I could do CMFC. They get longer.
Just the active again.
I have my memory.
Oh, there's someone on someone on the.
No, that's there. Yeah.
Oh, that was like.
I was like, what?
Is it just a reflection of me in the window?
I'm showing you. They can see. We didn't put two together.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Take some balls.
I can look at the other one. I was gonna say I should wear mine. Well, I have like I'm not and a sweater. Like I'm not that cold. I'm kind of just brought it from all sports. I don't need it. Comfy, a little bit, a little bit.
It is one.
Well, once I start talking, the hotter I'll just keep going too. Turn on the AC.
Yeah.
Oh, if they are, did you grab me? I'm gonna bring it. Oh, amazing.
Oh, and just real quick, feel free, you can take notes, or if you want your computer too to do things on LinkedIn while we're talking, feel free to whatever you prefer. So.
We can't keep watching the show. Just letting you know.
I don't know what it is. Normally I'm cold, but not this. Yeah, I know. You don't order one.
It's like if you go to Martian Rock, sometimes you find the way cheaper. Like that one's from Martian Rock, but like it's just like it's like I like something to make it like
I went to get it's really nice.
these are good.
Yeah.
Hey Madison, have you gotten called about Avery? I got texted about it. I don't know if they had called you yet. Because I didn't understand what her voice message meant. No. As a foreign national contact? Question mark?
I can't believe they care.
Oh, you mean yeah, there's no potato salad. I mean, it's just yeah, yesterday. So I'm excited to try it. It looks bomb.
My sandwich other than the other coleslaw, it was so good.
That's a really good idea.
I don't know. I'm happy I did.
I don't do it enough. What is that? Like a little like pepper?
Like, sure.
Oh, syrup? Yeah.
Cabbage, peppers.
But I can make that one. Or I made one. I was literally just saying that. Especially when I was just like, what's in here? And I was like, a chemical. I don't think she has like a bad song in her entire discography.
I am.
It's kind of crazy.
I skipped it because.
Short? I don't like
No,
Did you say you skipped Buddha?
Food up.
You don't like that song?
I do like it. It was just. It's
It
just
was really overplayed.
you know how me. I
I was gonna say, was it a folded for you?
No, it
Okay.
wasn't folded for me, but it will be a folded for me if I listen to it every time I heard it because I know it so well.
She's definitely gonna play that, I fear.
I thought it's gonna be a tempo.
Oh, I always forget about the possibility of an encore.
It's kind of a guarantee.
Okay. So I think everybody's got their food. If you want, we can get started on the main presentation as well too. I want to say thank you so much for hosting me today. It's a pleasure to be here. Just so you know, at the end of the presentation, there will be a QR code that has links to some downloadables, the presentation slides, all of that, so that post-meeting you have access to everything that we're going to talk about today. And then obviously there is recording going on, so there will be a recording for the presentation as well too. So I'll be able to send that out afterwards. So please feel free to take notes as you see fit to work on things, use your LinkedIn app, all of that. But again, you'll have everything after the meeting as well. So you can also be present and hear and listening if you want as well too. So today our topic is becoming a thought leader and to grow your network on LinkedIn. I've been requested to do this presentation quite a number of times over the years for law firms in particular because LinkedIn is such a powerful network for lawyers. I will say that this presentation has morphed quite a bit. In fact, I always love doing this presentation because then I find out what's new on LinkedIn because there's, it seems like every 3 to 6 months they're pushing out new features and all that. So there'll also be a chance to ask questions. Please feel free to ask questions during the presentation, at the end of the presentation, all that. This can be interactive. But if I don't know the answer to your question because something has changed on LinkedIn, I'll be sure to follow up afterwards from the meeting as well too to get back to you on any of those questions. Let's dive in. All right, so first up is our agenda for today. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. Why am I here today? What are we talking about? We're going to go over survey results. Thank you for those of you in the room that filled out the survey. That did help actually inform the content for the presentation today based on those results. The second part is going to be doing a profile check. So this is what I've geared this towards today is not that you're going to spend hours and hours and hours trolling LinkedIn, updating your thing. So these are going to be very practical updates. So this is going to be a 5-minute profile update on LinkedIn. What are the things that we're looking at? Where do you update? Where do you spend your time on LinkedIn? You can, of course, spend hours on your LinkedIn profile alone, but I'll show you kind of a practical way to do it. Posting with a purpose. So this was one of our survey results was asked how to write an effective LinkedIn post, how not to be kitschy on LinkedIn in particular. Connecting, so how to grow your network and your existing contacts from LinkedIn to ultimately grow the business that comes into the firm. And then a 30-minute plan. So this is how to implement in 30 minutes on LinkedIn a new plan for yourself to be more active in a way that's sustainable. Again, something that's not overly arduous for you to implement. As a professional that has a lot of other billable things to do on a daily basis. All right, so to tell you a little bit about myself first. So my name is Heather Pressler. I am the CEO and founder of BlueHuki. I am a scientist turned marketer, but actually a marketer turned scientist back to marketer is really the path there. This is my path in picture format. So I started out as a marketer. I was working, doing marketing for my dad's engineering firm out in Seattle for many years. And then I went to a small school called MIT. There was just a little bit of pressure to be a scientist or an engineer. Went way down the path of becoming a scientist. I have a PhD in biology. That's what brought me to this area. I have my PhD from Johns Hopkins. I did my cancer research at NIH for many years. Very much so enjoyed my time in science. I got to travel the world a little bit. So this was me working at a pharmaceutical company in India. I also got to work on a project in Japan as well too. But I graduated at probably the worst time in science other than today to be a scientist. It was right after we ran out of stimulus funding. So it was like everybody was on a hiring freeze. It was impossible to get a job. And I was like, all right, I also want more sustainable hours. I went into sales. So I did pharmaceutical sales for a number of years. I was very successful in pharmaceutical and medical device sales, but it was there that I started to encounter clients that were like, your company has all these great ideas for marketing, but I can't get my web developer to respond. I can't find a reputable marketing company. Can you recommend someone to me? And out of just about 140 people that I was servicing in the DC area, only one would recommend their marketing company, and they were based out on the West Coast. So it wasn't really like local to the DC area. So long story short, when I got tired of corporate America, me and two business partners started our first marketing firm, and that was 10 years ago. And a little bit about me personally, these are my whys. So that's my three kids. Ethan is a junior now at Thomas Jefferson. So he is going down the path of possibly science or engineering. We'll see. He's not quite sure where he's going yet. And then Marie and Bobby are my other two younger kids as well. And then my husband, Rob, he's active duty Army. He's been stationed off and on in the DC area for the last 10 years. He is retiring in December from active duty service. Yes. Moving on to the civilian world. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about BlueHuki, and this will make sense. We are military spouse owned and operated, and actually a lot of these folks on this team are military spouses themselves. We have a fully flex remote working environment that is very much so compatible with military spouse life. If you did not know, it is a big issue in our community where there's about a 30% unemployment rate among military spouses. And so I'm very proud to be able to offer employment for a typically underemployed group, but all of them are professional marketers, professionally trained, but they come to BlueHuki and learn our special sauce. We also have 4 full-time web developers on the team as well too. So we have quite a robust team of both specialists from a digital marketing perspective and then also from a website perspective. All right, so next up on our agenda for today, let's talk about your survey results. So where we'll spend our time today. Oh, that one's deciding not to show. One moment. It's always fun when it decides to disappear on us. All right, we'll put it up this way so we can see it. Or it's deciding to just glitch. That's an interesting one. Interesting. All right, let me try to upload it again. Come on, buddy. Wow. Okay, hold on. We've got to back up to the backup. Okay, let's bring up the slides in PowerPoint format. Go into the old school PDF. There we go. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's share that on the screen. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the number one thing that 100% of people asked for was writing posts that get engagement. So understanding a little bit more about what is being active on LinkedIn and how do we be more active on LinkedIn, what to post, and how often. Using LinkedIn for business development. So how do I grow my network? How do I meet people that are potentially new clients? And then LinkedIn features and best practices. Everyone else wanted a little bit of a mix across the board. The one thing that nobody in this room wanted was AI. No one wanted to know, which is totally fine. There are AI things that you can do to shorten the time that it takes you to maybe generate posts or to help you with ideas for posts. But you don't have to use, number one, don't recommend using generated AI unedited anywhere on the internet. But number two, like you do always have to be careful of like what those posts contain and how it speaks and how it presents to you online. Because again, there is a movement, it's a backlash against AI. So I totally encourage you all to experiment with AI, use it in ways that you're using your brain, editing it and putting it on the internet. All right, let's go back to the regular presentation then, where hopefully the other slides will participate with us today. We'll see. Okay, perfect. Okay, so, and then one of the other surveys results was how comfortable are you with LinkedIn? And 100% of people responded that there could be more that they're doing with LinkedIn. So there wasn't one person that was like, I'm advanced, I know exactly what I'm doing with LinkedIn. So it's great to hear though, and hopefully it's also reassuring to you to know that basically your peers all want more information about what I should be doing with LinkedIn. And our goal today is really to be seen, to be remembered, to be trusted, and then to be ultimately referred. And if this sounds familiar, this is sort of like the relationship building process, right? But it's the relationship building process on LinkedIn or digitally. And so that's essentially what we're doing. If you're very adept at doing this in person, it's essentially taking that model that you've been building in person and doing it online. All right, next one is going through our profile check. So this is where you might want to take notes, that sort of thing. But again, I will send this out with a checklist for your profile. Where did it go? Okay, so profile optimization. This may be something that a lot of you are dreading. And actually, when I went through creating this presentation for today, I went through my profile, and typically people look at that top 1 or 2 positions, and that's where you're editing your profile. And that can be stressful, right? To think about how are you presenting yourself, what are you putting out there? But it's absolutely worth your time. So this was a survey data that comes from LinkedIn themselves, that you're 7 times more likely to be viewed if you have a profile picture and it's updated. You're 5 times more likely to get connection requests if your current working profile, at least the last 2 positions you've had, are accurate and up to date. You're 30 times more likely to be discoverable within searches if you have 5+ skills on your LinkedIn profile. And you're 12 times more likely to appear in searches with 2 of the most recent job roles. So your 2 most recent job roles are the ones that are most important when people are searching to either connect with you or find you. How to optimize in 5 minutes. So these are really just basic check to go through your profile. And again, you could go through in a much deeper manner, but this is the easiest way to do it. So number 1, the photo. Do I look like myself? And I know there can be a lot of reasons why you might not look like yourself, right? And maybe it's been a while since you've gotten in front of a headshot photographer and got that headshot done. Maybe it's just you haven't gotten that profile done and you're like, I don't know if I should do this. It is important to make sure your photo does look like you, just because then when someone meets you in person, or they've met you in person and they're seeing you on LinkedIn, the 2 people that they see match. And I will say, again, there's a lot to dig in there, but having a really great headshot photographer makes a big difference if you feel insecure about your photo for whatever reason. So I highly recommend. There's some in this area, and I can give the recommendations for them too, that are really good with making you look like your best self, but it's still you, right? Headline. Does it say what I'm known for and not just my title, right? So does it actually say what you do, a little bit about who you are when you go to it? And if you see some of these, and I'll show you some examples of influencers in your space. And influencers, again, we're not talking like, the people that post dancing videos. We are talking about lawyers that are influencers in their space. You'll see that they have actually a pretty similar format to their title on LinkedIn, or their headline on LinkedIn. About, does it explain who I help and what I know? So your about is meant to really sell somebody on, okay, this is who I am. That they have that high level overview. So if you were going to do your 30-second elevator pitch at a networking event, that 30-second pitch should be in your about for LinkedIn. Experience, does it actually describe my areas of expertise? Maybe you haven't filled out this section before on LinkedIn, but that's very helpful for, again, if you met someone in a networking event and then we're connecting with them afterwards on LinkedIn, maybe they got a little bit of that from you from the networking event, but this gives them that list where they're like, okay, I really understand how this person can help, right? Or what they do. And then proof. So especially if you're going for the thought leader type of ideas on LinkedIn, what do you have on there that demonstrates your expertise? Is it awards? Is it CLEs that you've done? There's a lot of ways in which you can demonstrate proof in this sense. But that's a real kind of point that someone's going to look for when they go to your LinkedIn profile. We're going to do a quick real profile walkthrough. I did not tell Brian that I would do this to him today, so sorry, Brian, if you watch this video. But so what I'm going to show you today is a real lawyer, and he's an influencer in this space. And again, influencer meaning he gets like on average somewhere between 30 and 60,000 views of his LinkedIn profile. I mean, massive. He's a local lawyer here in Tyson's. So he's not, again, his full-time job is being a lawyer. He is not an influencer by profession, but he has curated his following in a very interesting manner, which we'll kind of go through the different aspects of what he's doing as an example on LinkedIn. So first of all, when you look at his his headline here. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. There is sort of a format, right, where it tells you what he's doing in that headline. Tech deal lawyer, he does AI, SaaS, cybersecurity, ad tech, fintech, et cetera, 20 plus years of experience from Big Law to in-house. And then his background, so where he went to college, and then he calls himself the contracts guy. So that's his branding for his influencer profile that he works on. So you get a lot of information just from that headline. Again, you don't have to have the same format, but you'll notice that a lot of them have that. And then if you just scroll down his page, you can see his about and how he's structured his about story. This might be a little bit longer than a 30-second elevator pitch overview. It then shows you some of the services that he offers. So again, this is that area where it's searchable on LinkedIn, and having those services make you searchable for those keywords on LinkedIn. These are featuring some of his posts on LinkedIn, which we'll go over later, some of his activity, and then it goes through, okay, here's his experience, and then you can see some of the bullet points that he puts under each one of his law firms that he's worked for, or in this case, like this would be maybe a proof point. So a founder / author would be someone that's a kind of a proof point as to like, why should I listen to you as opposed to somebody else, right? And then as you scroll down, you see his education, his licenses, what has he been doing for volunteering? Actually, I got to ask him about the MIT Entrepreneur Club. I didn't know they were back up and running. And then he has skills, recommendations from people. He has quite a substantial amount. So he has received 40 recommendations on LinkedIn, and he has 11 given. That's a lot. You actually do have to put a lot of effort into doing that. You'll see on mine, I don't have that many. So, but again, the idea here is that you don't have to be Brian, right? The idea here is just to give you an idea for when someone has their profile fully optimized, what does it look like from a perspective of engagement and what they have on their profile. So again, your expectation is only to do a 5-minute overview of your profile. Is it up to date? Have we maximized some of these key areas of your profile? Yours is not to necessarily become Brian overnight, right? Okay, next one, posting with purpose. This was one of the most sought after, asked for, requested things in that survey. Was 100% everyone's like, okay, what should we be doing from a posting? So before we go deep into what is that format for posting and how do we post? Just some words of wisdom for me. And this was one of the survey feedbacks that I was given. First one is, don't post something that takes forever, right? So it's really arduous, hard for you to put together, or makes you uncomfortable in any way. Again, the idea here is not to be someone different online. It's meant to be yourself, right? So anytime you kind of feel like this isn't me, back away from that post, maybe try again, right? So, because you do want to make sure that who you're networking with in person, who you are in person, is the person you are online as well too. It's cohesive branding, personal branding in this case. Be authentic, right? So on the same lines of that, anything that you post, you just want it to be what you would post and your thoughts and who you are. And then know your audience, right? So who is it that you want to either hire you, refer you, or remember you, right? So those folks are who we're posting for, right? And so when you think about like, who is that person that's going to potentially hire you or refer you, that's what you think about when you're thinking about the content that you want to post. Okay, this one, what the heck should I post? Okay, that's the hardest part. Ideas to get started. Again, AI can be a great assistant in the sense of getting ideas, especially if you get stuck. It's a wonderful thing for writer's block when you just sit down and you go, I don't even know what I would post about or how I would post. These are some common posts in especially the legal space. So common questions that people might have. So like, maybe there's a question that the client constantly asks you and you're constantly repeating it. That means that's a question that your ideal customer or people who would refer to you are asking, right? It's a great question to answer. Even if you feel like this is the most basic question in my space whatsoever, well, maybe you have a unique take on it, unique twist. And again, if someone's asking this, you've now put content on the internet that people are searching for the answer for, and you're now a resource for that, right? So it's a great one to start with. Something that's newsworthy. So maybe it's a development in the law that's changed recently. Maybe it's a case that came out that was really interesting. Maybe it's an award that the firm has won, right? So these are all like newsworthy things that you could just comment on, have a brief comment and get it out the door. Misconceptions. So maybe there are some misconceptions in your space that like commonly people think, hey, I won this award and that's all I need to do and I walk away a millionaire, and you're like, well, it's not quite how it works. It's kind of hard to collect that money. And misconceptions are a great way to generate a discussion too, right? An observation. So maybe you had something happen today. We were just talking before we started the presentation. I was like, the other day, someone was telling me that it took their web developer like a week to get back to them and make a change in their website. And I was like, yeah, I need to do one of these presentations on like, what's a sign that you need to make a change in that department? Is it, yeah, you can't have something on the website that's been up there for 2 years and haven't been able to change it, right? Or something of that nature. Those are always kind of like, again, they're just observations of what you're seeing happen to other people. And then you're talking about it because if one person experiences it, trust me, there are a lot of other people that are experiencing it too. And then personal. Social media it's ultimately like people connecting with people, right? And so the more you can put yourself into stories, the more people can relate back to you. So like oftentimes, if you go to my LinkedIn, you'll see maybe a story that starts with something that happened to me recently, but then it connects back to either maybe something that happened in college or my childhood or something of that nature that kind of relates back to you learning a little bit more about who I am personally. Those are always great posts because again, it tells people that you're a human. It also helps someone, if you've ever done networking, right? And you're trying to find common ground, it's like, oh, we went to the same college. Oh, our kid plays the same sport. Oh, finding that little way that you relate to other people can help you build stronger and deeper connections on social media as well too. But again, only what you're comfortable sharing, right? We're not getting out of our comfort zone and feeling like you're sharing too much. We're going to set a really realistic goal here. 1 post every 2 to 4 weeks. So if you haven't been active, let's get you to just being a little bit more active, right? If you are active, then I will challenge you to be a little bit more active, right? But again, nothing that's not sustainable. And the reason I say 1 post every 2 to 4 weeks is that guess what? We can reshare some of the posts that the firm is posting or other people are posting that doesn't take a lot of your time and effort. It might take a comment, but you're just resharing content that's already out there. And we'll actually look at Brian's here in a minute, and I'll show you. You'll see he actually is very prolific at sharing and resharing other people's posts. It's not just what he's doing, because again, he is a full-time lawyer. He's got to do billable work. Okay, so basic post structure is tell a story. So this is just a simple framework for a 2-minute post. Now, the framework is just taking a story that you might say. So when you're trying a new framework, what I tell people is write the story first. So just write it out quick, how you would say it, and then try to fit it into this framework, which is that it has a hook, it has an insight, why it matters, and then the takeaway. So take a story that you would normally tell and then put these elements into it. And again, it's not meant to be like a really long activity to put this together. So this might be an exciting law update. This might be that this is the first time it's ever been shared. It impacts these people, this new law update. And then this is the lasting impression you're leaving your audience with, your take on this new law that came out. So that's kind of the basic post structure of a story frame, that you're putting an actual story to your observation or your post. All right, next one. So this is an example of facts versus telling a story. So thank you to whoever submitted the form with this one. Don't report what you did. So the example in the form was like, I don't want to go out there and just put on LinkedIn that like won a default judgment for a client today. Great result, right? Yeah, absolutely. Don't do it, right? Don't post the, reporting what you're doing, but extract kind of what you know, right? So like maybe that's the fact that you won a default judgment. Maybe there's something that you can twist about that observation or that nature, like winning default judgment and collecting on one are 2 very different things, right? So you're not even talking about that you had won a default judgment today, but now you're actually going into kind of a little bit more depth on that topic, which is that like, hey, it's great when you do that, but then I know leaving the room that like there's a lot more here that's going to have to be done than just simply like, hey, we won and walk away, right? So again, you're taking that kind of that observation that you had and then making a little bit of a twist to it, right? Showing people a little bit of your expertise, your experience, what you've seen along the way in that space. Okay, next one is connecting. So I'll pause here for a minute before we go to the next one. And let's go back to Brian's profile here so we can see his activity. And share the Click app. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So when you go to someone's activity on LinkedIn, you can see on here what they're posting. So what you'll notice about what Brian's posting is it's not, again, these like 3-page, observations about anything. So like this very simplified one here, which I love. Like I like all of Brian's stuff. AI oversimplified rule of thumb: assume AI is 80 to 90% accurate, and then 80 to 90% of the time, and act accordingly. So trust but verify. And I'm like, yeah. And it's like that 80 to that 10 to 20% when it's not accurate, it's really not accurate, right? Then he has some longer ones. So this one is a little bit of a longer one about his firm, what he does. So again, he's talking about kind of like why you would hire him, what he does. And then he has a lot that he shares. So he just reposted with no comments other people that he's sharing, like their content. So again, it takes him no time to reshare some of this, but some of the things that he reshares are really great, like observations. They're funny. Every Friday he has what he calls the Friday funnies. So he shares like funny observations on Friday, like little cartoons and things like that. So again, he mixes up the content where it's, contract work that he might be doing, AI observations, other posts from other people. It is not just simply him posting constantly, right? And I think a lot of folks think that influencers are just constantly pumping out content, which they can be, but you don't have to do that to have like a presence. And again, if this also gives you permission, you don't have to create every single thing that you're going to be putting on LinkedIn. You just are thoughtful in the ways in which you reshare and share content. This also allows you to collaborate with other people, right? This builds your relationship. When you reshare someone's posts, depending on who they are, they might actually be very grateful that you've reshared their post. And you're, again, building that relationship without ever having had another coffee with them, without having a drink with them. You're actually just building your relationship digitally, which, as you could probably imagine, resharing a post takes 2 seconds. Getting coffee with someone might take 2 hours, right? So it's a way for you to, in a meaningful way, build a relationship with people online. And not just, again, posting into the void as sometimes it feels. All right, let me switch back to our meat of our presentation. But then I'll pause too. Does anyone have any questions about like posts, concepts, ideas behind posts, all of that? Because I know that was the very, very popular survey response. Okay. Next up. This one's important: connecting and growing your new and existing contacts. So LinkedIn can be a very powerful network to building, again, your in-person network online. One way that's very common in law and legal is like, I've gone to a networking event, I got 5 business cards. What am I going to do with these 5 business cards? I would start a habit of, I've gone to a networking event, I got 5 business cards. I'm going to go back to my desk, go onto LinkedIn and connect with each one of these. The reason being is that depending on how you met them, right, you might not see them again for another 6 months. But the moment that you've connected on LinkedIn, and if you're active on LinkedIn, you start to build that relationship with them, having not seen them for 6 months. And you wouldn't believe the number of people that'll even come up to me and be like, hey, I saw that post that you posted the other day about X, Y, and Z. Like, so they're watching, right? They're watching, and they feel like they know more about you because they're seeing things that you're posting online. What I tend to post on LinkedIn is a little bit more of the professional side than what I post on like social media, which is obviously more personal. But either way, when you kind of run that professional personal line, you start to build that relationship with someone online. So again, you've met that person at a networking event. Now you want to build that relationship without having to get coffee with them every month, right? Or doing a Zoom every month. This is just an example of a actual pipeline that someone built from LinkedIn. And again, I'm not saying that this is going to be your pipeline, right? But it gives you an idea for, if you did 6 months of networking and you did 1 hour a week or half-hour a week of LinkedIn, what could we get potentially out of LinkedIn? Could we get 500 new connections? Now that probably isn't just from networking alone, but maybe you are a very prolific networker in the next 6 months, right? But there's also networking that you can do on LinkedIn. Believe it or not, in this case study, 76% of requests were accepted. So, today after I leave the law firm, I might send you guys some requests. I might get to the 76% out of the folks that accept, right? And then 71% of new connections actually responded to a message. So if you include a message in that first, hey, it was great to see you at blank event, a lot of folks actually do respond to those messages as well too. Although I get a lot of spam on LinkedIn, a lot. It's hard to sort through the real and the spam. And then what does that mean? Do you get maybe, I would argue over a 6-month period, you're going to get a lot more than 355 people engaging with you on the platform. But let's say it's meaningful engagement, right? Comments, messages. And then of those, you might get 125 meetings. Now, this is again, whether you're asking for meetings, whether you want to meet with these folks. And then of those, could you potentially get 27 referrals, right? That's a lot. That's a lot of potentially new business. That's a lot of new connections that you're making and deep ones at that. 35% of engaged connections agreed to actually be connected. And then 21% of those converted to opportunities, even if they weren't sales ready opportunities, meaning they weren't necessarily ready to do business, but they were actual opportunities. So this is, again, a real funnel that someone was running on LinkedIn. It just gives you an idea for, putting that time and the right activities into it could actually translate to real meaningful growth from your network. We can walk through an example here. So if we go back to our LinkedIn, what would we be doing if we're LinkedIn prospecting? So, and actually one thing I wanted to highlight as well too, when we were talking about posts, this is your company page. If you have not followed the company page, go to the company page, click follow. Yes. Now you will be following the company page. Again, when you run out of ideas of what should I be posting on LinkedIn, first of all, anytime that you can post out about dogs, this is going to be like your #1 engaging posts, right? I'm sure someone here knows that this is the #1 engaging post right now. Yeah, thanks. Anytime you can post about your animal on any sort of social media, that will be your #1 post, and you'll be totally disillusioned. You're like, no, but I want my actual business post to get it. It's all in the algorithm, though. If you can get someone to engage on your dog, you'll get more people to see your business posts as well, too. So changing up your algorithm is good. So again, if you don't know what to post, you can go straight to the company page, reshare this. Even just liking it means that people in your network will see that you've liked this post as well, too. So this is where you can go to repost. And then you can either repost with your thoughts, which means you write a comment, or you just simply repost it right here without any. And you saw that Brian was doing that. He was reposting without any comment either as well, too. So just make it simple and easy. And then you check the box. You left the LinkedIn training and you've been active for the next 2 to 4 weeks. You're good. You don't have to do anything else, right? And again, just giving props to the team here. You're doing all the right things. You're tagging people in the posts that then show up on their feed. But again, the more that everyone here can engage, reshare, that helps in terms of the firm getting more visibility as well, too. So again, easy content for you to reshare. Okay, so let's talk about growing your network. So I went to a networking event. I could type somebody's name in up here, find that person from that networking event. So like Carrie was at an event I was at the other day, and I found her on LinkedIn, connected with her, sent her a note. And now she will see my posts and I will see her posts. So we have the potential of continuing that relationship. The other thing you can do is actually be very specific. So like, let's say you're like, look, I want to get connected to more CPAs in the area. You can put into the search bar CPA, and you can find anyone who is second or third plus connected to you. That means you have one connection apart. If we're doing the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and then that allows you to see people who are connected through other people that you know. And it'll actually tell you who those people are. So like, let's say Michael Gillette is actually going to be a fantastic contact for you. You can connect with him here on LinkedIn. And again, you get that 76% likelihood that Michael will connect with you. Or you can reach out to Scott Sanborn and say, hey, Scott, I'd really like to be connected with Michael. Do you mind making an intro over email? And so you can actually ask for warm introductions for people too, depending on maybe whether or not that person you really want to connect with, as opposed to you just want to start that relationship as well. You can also search by location. So I can add that I only want people in McLean, Virginia. And I only want to see people in this area. I can also sort by companies as well too. So I can see if I only want to see Deloitte or something of that nature. I can decide, and I can't spell Deloitte apparently. I can decide like I only want to see CPAs that are at Deloitte. So you can get really, really targeted. You can get broad and you can get really targeted in the people you see here and just start connecting. So that whole idea of like, could you add 500 connections in 6 months? Absolutely. Yeah, you could add it just by, going through this list and adding a whole bunch of CPAs, for example, to your roles. And this is, again, just one way that you can grow your network. You can also connect to your email where it pulls all of the contacts that you've had over email. And the way I think of LinkedIn is I think it's fair game for anybody. So whether someone's your personal contact or your professional contact, if you know them, you can connect with them on LinkedIn. It's really kind of a less formal than, let's say, like Facebook. Go ahead.
What's behind the paywall?
What's behind the paywall? Meaning?
You can do the free LinkedIn, or you can be the
Oh.
Gold Star member.
Yes, they do have LinkedIn Navigator, sales, etc. They have a lot of different. What's behind the paywall is a lot more features where you can see who's like looking at your profile, for example. It allows you to see people's contact information. So sometimes on LinkedIn, if you're connected with them, you can see their contact information. But if you're not connected, you can't see that information. Word of warning on that as well, too. There are scammers that use LinkedIn to get people's contact information. So LinkedIn does warn you not to connect with people that you don't know or you don't think are legitimate profiles on LinkedIn, because then they do have more detailed information about you. And I think in the ALA meeting, we talked about how actually I've had it happen, and I think some of the other firms have had it happen, where as soon as someone's hired at a firm, they get a text message like, I need you to go buy gift cards and send them to me. And it'll be coming from me. Yeah. Like, actually, it does actually happen. But they protect, multiple firms. And this still, our onboarding procedure is to tell people to expect this text. That the moment they change their LinkedIn status, they're going to get a text that says, hi, this is Dr. Heather Pressler, which is also a red flag. I would never text my name like that, which is why I'm glad that my name is like that on LinkedIn. And we tell them to expect that they will get it. So anyway, there's scams on LinkedIn. LinkedIn does, a lot of these platforms are, unfortunately, they're free for us if you don't pay for it, but they're free for us because your information is what they sell, whether they sell it to other users, advertisers, etc. So that's the negative of these platforms.
Is the paywall worth it?
I think the paywall has some really cool features, but if you're going to do the paywall, you do have to be committed, right? So like Brian, for example, is one of the pro members or whatever of LinkedIn, and he's very committed to like the activity he has on LinkedIn. So I think anytime when you decide whether or not you're paying for a subscription is like, what is the mileage you'll get out of it? If you're just getting started with LinkedIn, not worth it at all. If you have a business developer in-house that's like the business developer's job is to just troll LinkedIn all day, perfect. Like giving them a subscription is very much so worth it, for sure. Any other questions about growing your network? And if it's been a while since you've connected your email to LinkedIn and like gone through the process of seeing if I'm really connected to everybody, it's a great activity. I mean, it literally is. You could add 1,000 people to your network overnight. It's wonderful. All right. Next up is our last one is our 3-2-1 plan. So our 3-2-1 plan is how to implement everything we've talked about today in a 30-minute or less strategy on LinkedIn, and to get you just a realistic way to do this. So the 3-2-1 plan is 3 comments, 2 connects, and 1 post. And it sounds really basic, but it's essentially you go on LinkedIn, you see some posts that other people are posting. And when you do, one note on this that I put in the content afterwards, but not in the presentation, is for comments, do try to do more than just simply like congratulations. Like if someone gets, a promotion or something of that nature, having a little bit more of a substantial comment does help, like, again, build that relationship with them. So maybe it's like, congratulations, when I worked with you many years ago, you were always just so on point. I'm not surprised, so on and so forth, right? And so it's just that little extra, like, again, without being disingenuous, it's just that little extra comment that does make a difference. And then I will say too that I've had multiple experiences where if I'm following some influencers on LinkedIn, so that might be like, Tony Robbins or like, some of these big names out there. If you see a post that they've posted and you comment on it, you will immediately see people coming to your profile on LinkedIn and like learning more about you. So again, those comments can be very powerful to drawing attention. And when you, again, are keeping your eye on the ball, which is, ultimately who am I hoping to connect with and how am I hoping to grow my network? Then you think about, okay, what kinds of comments or where should I be commenting? That's where you kind of go back to. with your strategy. Because if you comment on Tony Robbins, but you're not really looking to get any of Tony Robbins followers to like hire you, that's potentially not like helpful views. It's views, yes, but it's not like helpful views. And so this is, again, just a very realistic 3-2-1, 3 comments, 2 connects, 1 post, which will help you with this visibility and getting deeper connections on LinkedIn. Okay, so our 7-day action plan. I like to have to-dos when we leave a meeting like this so that we learned all these great things, but ultimately we want you to actually do one of these great things. So choose one today. So it's either your 5-minute profile review, crafting a post with that story framework, growing your network, or implementing the 3-2-1 plan, and pick that as in the next 7 days, I'm going to take action and do that one thing. That doesn't mean that, and I'm sure all of these are tempting, right? You can maybe next week you pick one of the different ones on the week, but we just want you to do one thing today. So if you want to pick one that you're going to do next, and then what I'm going to show you next is going to have that QR code that has all the downloadables. So let's say you're like, okay, I want to do the 5-minute profile review. With that QR code, you'll go to my website where all the links, and you can download the 5-minute profile checklist, and you can download the story framework and all that, so that you actually have that leaving this meeting, so you don't have to be like, what did Heather say? What was that? What am I supposed to do next? So there's the QR code. It also has a quick connect as well too. I know Zach and I will definitely do a quick connect post meeting as well, but I'm always open to networking, talking more about marketing and great things that you can do online. But now we have time for questions, comments. This was like, drinking from a fire hose, but I'm trying to make it, because as you know, like you can spend hours on LinkedIn, hours. In fact, I went and did a deep dive on my profile last night, and I redid all of the descriptions for all of my past jobs and positions, which I kind of got to the end of it where, it's like all my science stuff, right? And I was like, do I really need to redo like my science, descriptions for the previous jobs? But what I realized as I was going through that process is that, when you're reframing maybe previous experiences that led to where you are today, that's a different story than just when I was a scientist and I was putting my scientific credentials, or when I was a salesperson and putting my sales credentials, right? It's a different story when you then are kind of trying to relate it back to, well, why does this experience matter for what I do today, right? So that was kind of an interesting activity. It definitely was like, going a little down the rabbit hole though of LinkedIn. Do we need to spend an hour redoing all of our descriptions? So rabbit holes are always fun on LinkedIn. And you will notice that the picture, yeah. So that was I put the ALA, the picture of us in the room from the ALA talk. So yeah, that'll look a little familiar. You're like, how did she get that up so fast? That's crazy. It's like is there a hidden camera in this room somewhere? But the desks are rearranged differently, so it was a different day than today. Any questions or thoughts or? And then also post meeting too, I'll send out just again one of those very short 2-minute surveys. Number one, to find out what your best takeaway was from this meeting, so that I get that. 2, feedback on future presentations, anything like that as well too. So yeah, if you don't mind taking a post survey when I send that out, that'd be great. Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you. Now you've got like 10 minutes before you have to get back into work.
No, I put that couple books on.